بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله وسلم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. In the name of Allah, the most gracious, the most merciful, praise be to Allah, peace be upon the Prophet Muhammad, his family, his companions. Today, in our seminar, we are going to address a very important subject related to the Holy Qur'an. It is the Qur'an on human embryology. Allah revealed the Holy Qur'an to be the guidance for all human beings until the day of judgment. He, Allah the Almighty, revealed to us the verses in order to contemplate, in order to give them a thought. And today, we are going to give some verses of the Holy Quran a thought. The verses that we are going to explain to you from the Holy Quran are related to the human embryology. Allah the Almighty said in the Holy Quran, هو الذي يصوركم في الأرحام كيف يشاء لا إله إلا هو العزيز الحكيم. This verse is from the Holy Quran. The corresponding meaning of this verse is this: it is He who shapes you in the womb as He wishes, as He pleases. There is no God but He. He is the Almighty. He is the exalted in might, the All-Wise. So who shapes us in the wombs of our mothers? Allah, the Almighty, the All-Wise. Before I present some verses from the Holy Quran that describe the stages of the human embryo inside the uterus, I would like to give you a summary about the history of human embryology. And then I will present the verses of the Holy Quran that describe the stages of human embryo inside the womb of the mother. The history of human embryology started in the 4th century BC. It started with Aristotle. Aristotle stated that human embryo developed from a formless mass resulted from the union of the semen and the menstrual blood. This is the beginning of human embryology. Then, the human embryology did not progress that much until the 18th century. Until the 18th century AD. Long time. Before the 18th century, researchers mistakenly thought that human embryo developed from the beginning in his full shape. It means that there was no information about human sperms. There was no information about the woman ovum. Nothing. It is called the preformation theory, which states or which stated that human embryo developed in his full shape from the beginning. It was until 1701 when Ham and Leeuwenhoek discovered the human sperm after the discovery of the microscope. After the discovery of human sperm, also researchers mistakenly thought that human embryo developed in his full shape from the beginning inside the spermatozoa. Inside the spermatozoa, in his full shape from the beginning, and the woman, the mother, has no role in this development. Then what happened? This is a picture of the preformation theory. Here, that human embryo develops in his full shape from the beginning. And then when they discovered the human sperm, they thought that human embryo develops in his full shape from the beginning. And this is a picture for a human embryo inside the spermatozoa, inside the sperm. Then science, anatomy developed more and more until they discovered the woman ovum. And then until they discovered the woman ovum in 1827 AD. Then the researchers, the scientists, mistakenly also thought that human embryo developed inside the woman's ovum, and the man's sperm has no role in this development except as growth stimulus. Okay? And then, or before this, Spallanzani in 1775 found that human embryo develops from both man's sperm and woman's ovum. That was the real start, the true start of human embryology. It was when the sperms and the ovum were discovered. That was 235 years from now. 235 years from now. The beginning, the real beginning of human embryology. Let us start now talking about the verses of the Holy Qur'an that describe the human embryo stages. Step by step, stage by stage. That was 1400 years ago, not 235 years ago. In the past. Allah said in the Holy Quran, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم ولقد خلقنا الإنسان من سلالة من طين ثم جعلناه نطفة في قرار مكين ثم خلقنا النطفة علقة فخلقنا العلقة مضغة فخلقنا المضغة عظاما فكسونا العظام لحما ثم أنشأناه خلقا آخر فتبارك الله أحسن الخالقين ثم إنكم بعد ذلك لميتون ثم إنكم يوم القيامة تبعثون لا إله إلا الله. There is no true God but Allah. These are the verses that describe the human embryo stages, stage by stage, from the beginning until the end. Few verses. These are from chapter Al-Mu'minun, verses 12 to 14. How many verses? 3 verses. Describing the whole human embryo stages. If we bring a whole book, about human embryology, we will have to have several lectures in order to describe all the stages of the human embryo development. However, the Quran described it in 3 verses. La ilaha illallah. Okay. What are the corresponding meanings of these verses that I recited to you in Arabic text? Allah said in the Holy Quran, the corresponding meaning, we created man from an extract of clay. Then we made him as a nutfa. We made him as a nutfa in a place of settlement firmly fixed. In a place of settlement firmly fixed. Then we made the nutfa into alaqa. Then we made the alaqa into mudghah. Then we created out of the mudghah bones and clothed the bones with flesh. Then we developed out of it another creation. So blessed the best who create. This is the Quran, chapter 23, verse 12 to 14. Now, I would like to go with you step by step, studying the different stages mentioned in the Holy Quran, and then compare this information to the recent findings of science in order to see whether the modern science becomes a witness for the verses of the Qur'an or not? Surely, the recent science will stand as a witness for the truthfulness of the Holy Qur'an. And you will see. The first stage of human embryo is the nutfah. The nutfah. There are two types of nutfah. The first type of nutfah is related to the fluid drop sperm that is emitted from the man. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala قال في القرآن الكريم وأنه خلق الزوجين الذكر والأنثى من نطفة إذا تمنى. He created, the corresponding meaning of this verse is this. He created the pairs, male and female, from a fluid drop sperm as it is emitted. This is from chapter 53, verse 45 and 46. So, what does this verse tell us? This verse of the Holy Qur'an tells us that the human sperm determines the gender of the baby inside the womb. La ilaha illallah. There is no true God but Allah. This is supported by the recent findings of science. They discovered that the man's sperm has 23 chromosomes. One of these chromosomes determines the sex of the baby. So there are two types in this chromosome that determines the sex of the baby. One of them is type Y chromosome that determines the baby's sex to be a male. And the type X chromosome that determines the sex of the baby to be a female. وأنه خلق الزوجين الذكر والأنثى من نطفة إذا تمنى. He created both male and female from an emitted sperm. Another aspect of this. The Quran tells us that man is created from part of the man's fluid, not from the whole man's fluid, as Aristotle thought, as the researchers thought through the preformation theory. The Quran tells us that man is created from only part of the man's fluid. Allah the Almighty said in the Holy Quran, الذي أحسن كل شيء خلقه وبدأ خلق الإنسان من طين ثم جعل نسله من سلالة من ماء مهين. This is the Quran. The corresponding meaning of this verse or of these verses is this. It is He who created everything in the best way. And He started the creation of man from clay. Then He made His progeny. Then He made His progeny from an extract of fluid. From an extract of despised fluid. So, this verse tells us that man is created from an extract of or part of man's fluid. Not all the sperms participate in the creation of man. Not all of them. It's just only part of it, and the Qur'an named it sulala, an extract, a part. Okay, let us see what the recent science, what the recent embryology said about this aspect. Millions of sperms enter through the vagina to the uterine cervix. Then only one sperm travels to reach the fallopian uterine tube in order to fertilize the ovum there. After the complete fertilization, with only one sperm, the zygote develops. The zygote develops. And other sperms are prevented to enter the ovum and to make a new fertilization. So it's only one. Who made this possible? Allah the Almighty. The glory be to Him. So, this is the first type of nutfah. The first type of nutfah. Now we are going to the second type of nutfah. It is called nutfah amshaj. Nutfah amshaj. The second type. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah the Almighty said in the Holy Qur'an, إِنَّا خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ مِن نُطْفَةٍ أَمْشَاجٍ نَبْتَلِيهِ فَجَعَلْنَاهُ سَمِيعًا بَصِيرًا. The corresponding meaning of this verse is this. Verily we created man from a mingled fluid drop. A mingled fluid drop. In order to try him, we gave him as a gift the hearing and the sight, in order to determine, in order to judge, in order to complain about the creation of Allah. Allah did not create our sight, our hearing for nothing. He created our sight and hearing for a noble purpose. It is to think and to contemplate in order to reach the greatness of Allah and to believe in Him. So, nutfa amshaj means a mingled fluid drop. That is a mixture of man chromosomes and woman chromosomes. Chromosomes that came from the sperm and chromosomes that came from the ovum. A mixture. This is the meaning of nutfah amshaj. And this is what the science found. Nutfah amshaj in modern science means zygote. Means what? Means zygote. The zygote comes after the fertilization of the ovum by the sperm. Then what happens to the zygote? The nutfah amshaj. This is what happens to the nutfah amshaj or to the zygote in this picture. You see, these are many and many sperms around, waiting to fertilize the ovum. It's only one of them. One of them fertilizes the ovum. Then after the fertilization, the zygote, the developed zygote, start to divide. Many divisions. Many divisions. And you get what? The nutfah amshaj hair. The nutfah amshaj hair, which is the mingled fluid drop. This is according to the recent findings of the science. This is the first stage of human embryo development, the nutfah. The second human embryo stage is the stage of alaqa. Is the stage of alaqa. Remember the verses of the Holy Qur'an that I recited to you. Then we made the drop into what? Into alaqa. Then we made the drop into alaqa. Alaqa is an Arabic term. Arabic term. What does alaqa mean? What does alaqa mean? In Arabic language, alaqa means in Arabic language three things. The first one, the first meaning of alaqa, a leech. The second meaning of alaqa, a suspended thing. And the third meaning of alaqa, blood clot. Blood clot. We are going to go through these three meanings of alaqa. The first meaning of alaqa is a leech. And look at this picture. The comparison between human embryo at the stage of alaqa hair and a leech hair. Look at the similarities. Look at the similarities between the human embryo at the stage of alaqa and a leech. And this is coming from a great book authored by Keith Elmore and T.V. Persaud. It's called The Developing Human. 5th edition, page number 73. You find this figure, the comparison between human embryo at the stage of alaqa and a leech. And you look at the similarities between both of them. To confirm the truthfulness of the Holy Qur'an, when it describes this stage as alaqa stage. It looks, the human embryo at this stage looks like a leech. And we are talking about a tiny thing. You know, the size of human embryo at this stage is less than 1 millimeter. Glory be to Allah. Who told the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, about this tiny thing inside the womb? Allah, who created the embryo. So, the first meaning of alaqa is a leech. And this is a picture of the human embryo at the alaqa stage. Look at the shape. Doesn't look like it's a leech. Indeed, it looks like a leech. What does a leech do? It sucks its food from the blood of the host. Similarly, the human embryo at the alaqa stage suck his nutrition from the blood of the mother. You look. See? La ilaha illallah. There is no true God but Allah. The second meaning of alaqa is a suspended thing. A suspending thing. Look at this diagram. It shows us the suspension of an embryo inside the womb. It looks like a suspension. And also this diagram is coming from the book of Keith Elmore and T.V. Persaud, 5th edition, page 66, to show the suspension of the human embryo inside the womb. This is the embryo, human embryo, as a suspension. This is another picture of the suspension of the human embryo inside the womb. This B, letter B here. A tiny thing inside the womb. The age of the embryo is only 15 days. And it's less than 1 millimeter. But through the sophisticated instruments by the modern science, they were able to detect this small tiny thing inside the womb. Nowadays, they can insert a sophisticated camera in order to follow the development of the human embryo inside the womb. La ilaha illallah. Who enabled the human being to discover his glory? The third meaning of halakah. Blood clot. Blood clot. You see in this diagram, this is the human embryo. Around the human embryo, it's sacs. And inside these sacs, look at the human embryo. It looks like a blood clot due to the large amount of blood inside the embryo. It looks like blood clot. And also this diagram is in the famous book by Keith Elmore and T.V. Bersaud, 5th edition, page number 65. So, 3 meanings of halakah. 3 meanings of halakah hold true. Showed us the truth that indeed the human embryo at this stage, the stage of halakah, looks like a leech or a suspending thing or a blood clot. La ilaha illallah. There is no true God but Allah. The next stage. The next stage after the halakah stage is the stage of mudghah. The stage of mudghah. Then Allah said in the Holy Qur'an, the corresponding meaning, then we made the halakah into mudghah. Mudghah is an Arabic term. Is an Arabic term. What does mudghah mean? Mudghah means a showed substance. A showed substance. The human embryo transforms from the halakah stage into the mudghah stage. And the mudghah stage means, or the mudghah means a showed substance. Okay, I am going to present to you some diagrams to show you the human embryo at the mudghah stage. This is a human embryo at the mudghah stage. After 24 days, the mudghah of the human embryo age, the mudghah stage starts. At this time, the somites at the back of the human embryo at this stage start to appear. At the back of the human embryo, like this, here. At the back. These are what? The somites. The somites. This is the somites tell us that the human embryo stage has already started. And you know the actual size of the human embryo at this stage is about 4 millimeter, around 4 millimeter. Now, I would like to present to you a diagram showing a comparison between human embryo at the stage of mudghah and a showed gum. A showed gum. In order to see the similarities between both of them. This is the picture. This is the human embryo at the stage of mudghah. And this is a showed gum. This is a showed gum. Look at the somites at the back of the human embryo. Look at the somites at the back of the human embryo, and look at the teeth mark in the showed gum. Don't they look like each other? Look at the similarities between the somites at the back of the human embryo at the stage of mudghah and the teeth marks in the showed gum. La ilaha illallah. There is no true God but Allah. And this is also coming from the famous book that I told you about, The Developing Human by Moore and Bersaud, 5th edition, page number 79. Now, the time is for the scientists. The time is for the professors in the field of embryology and in the field of anatomy. They are going to stand and to give a witness for these verses of the Holy Qur'an. They are going to stand to be a witness for the truthfulness of the Holy Qur'an. I am going to present to you the statement of every one of them. These are the authors of the book that I told you about, The Developing Human. They are going to talk to us and tell us about the truthfulness of the verses of the Holy Qur'an. Just a minute.
The Qur'an on Embryology. Dr. T.V.N. Persaud. Dr. T.V.N. Persaud is Professor of Anatomy, Professor of Pediatrics and Child Health, and Professor of Obstetrics, Gynecology, and Reproductive Sciences at the University of Manitoba in Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada. There he was the chairman of the Department of Anatomy for 16 years. He is well known in his field. He is the author or editor of 22 textbooks and has published over 180 scientific papers. In 1991, he received the most distinguished award presented in the field of anatomy in Canada, the JCB Grant Award from the Canadian Association of Anatomists. Dr. Persaud is the penultimate speaker that you are about to hear, saying what he has to say about how science is in total conformity with what was revealed in the Qur'an 1430 years ago to a man who was illiterate and lived at a time when it was impossible for him to know anything of the complexities of what you have so far heard. Dr. Persaud will be discussing issues pertaining to ladies and how the Qur'an succinctly and correctly stated scientific facts impossible for anyone to have known at that time. He further states facts and figures pertaining to the current sexual promiscuity and the health-related problems due to this. What is amazing is how this was clearly stated by Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, long before any of these facts were known to the medical world. Let's now listen to what Dr. T.V.N. Persaud has to say on these amazing issues.
The growth of the fetus progresses rapidly until the beginning of the 12th week, after which it enters a new phase of rapid growth and dramatic changes. The rapid growth and dramatic changes which occur after the bones have been clothed by muscles have been mentioned in the Holy Qur'an 1400 years ago. And this is recorded, this is the Surah Al-Mu'minun, Ayah 14. The first slide is a scanning electron micrograph of an embryo that is just 5 weeks old. The embryo, as you will see, is curled. It is no more than a half an inch in length, and the upper part forms 2/3 of the entire body. There is a limb bud there, and there is in fact a tail. The heart is in its very primitive stage, but it's in fact beating rhythmically. And this is a special technique which is used for clearing the embryo so that it becomes transparent. And then a stain is used to stain the bony parts which have appeared. And this is what you're seeing here. It comprises mostly of cartilage, which gives form to the body of the embryo and confers upon it unquestionably human characteristics. This stage of a 7-week-old fetus, its own unique personality, perhaps as a thinking, conscious, and feeling being. And the Prophet Muhammad, peace be unto him, mentioned all these events I've described and their time in the hadith. And we don't have a transparency, but I'll read it for you. When 42 nights have passed over the sperm drop, Allah sends an angel to it, who shapes it and makes it ears, eyes, skin, flesh, and bones. Then he says, "O Lord, is it male or female?" And your Lord decides what he wishes, and the angel records it. Thank you.
Our guest today is Dr. Keith Moore, Professor of Anatomy and Embryology at the University of Toronto, Canada. And before, at the University of Winnipeg in Western Canada for 11 years. Then, the head of the anatomy department for 6 years. He has headed many international associations, such as Canadian and American Associations of Anatomists and the Council of the Union of Biological Sciences. Professor Moore was also elected to the membership of the Royal Medical Association of Canada, the International Academy of Cytology, the Union of the American Anatomists, and the Union of North and South American Anatomists. Professor Moore has published many books on clinical anatomy and embryology. 8 of them are used as reference works in medical schools and have been translated into 6 languages, namely Italian, German, Portuguese, Spanish, Greek, and Chinese.
It has been a great pleasure for me to help clarify statements in the Qur'an about human development. It is clear to me that these statements must have come to Muhammad from God or Allah, because almost all of this knowledge was not discovered until many centuries later. This proves to me that Muhammad must have been a messenger of God or Allah. Intensive studies of the Qur'an and Hadith in the last 4 years have revealed a system for classifying human embryos that is amazing, since it was recorded in the 7th century AD. Although Aristotle, the founder of the science of embryology, realized that chick embryos developed in stages from his studies of hen's eggs in the 4th century BC, he did not give any details about these stages. As far as it is known from the history of embryology, little was known about the staging and classification of human embryos until the 20th century. For this reason, the descriptions of the human embryo in the Qur'an cannot be based on scientific knowledge in the 7th century. The only reasonable conclusion is that these descriptions were revealed to Muhammad from God. He could not have known such details because he was an illiterate man with absolutely no scientific training.
I showed you the statements of the scientists, the statements of the professors in this field, the field of anatomy, the field of embryology. They stood in front of the world and said, we have no difficulty to accept that these verses came from the Lord, from Allah. Why? Because they said that at the time of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, there was no such knowledge. As a matter of fact, the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, was an illiterate man. He could not read, could not write. With no scientific training at all. He did not graduate from the College of Medicine. He did not study in any university. He was illiterate. And he brought to us the revelation from Allah. And he revealed, or he conveyed to us these verses that are talking about the human embryology, about the development of human embryo stage by stage, step by step. 1400 years ago. Who told the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, about such fact that only recently were discovered? Allah, the Almighty, who knows every single detail in this universe. He knows what's going inside the womb. So he revealed to his messenger verses to be recited until the day of judgment. Therefore, the Qur'an is the word of Allah. The Qur'an is the guidance for all human beings until the day of judgment. And the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, is the true messenger of Allah. May Allah reward you for your coming and for your listening. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.